Hello and welcome back. In this video we are going to be looking at the chown command. This is used primarily for changing file or group ownership, user or group ownership of a file or directory, and we will look into that. It is in some cases very similar to chmod. Chmod changed the file permission, but the file permission is highly dependent on the ownership of that file. So for example, if you own that file, then if we go back to the chmod explanation, you would notice that we have three groups of permissions on that file, and it all hinges on the owner, starting with the owner of that file, the group that that file belongs to, and then anyone else across the system-wide permission. So this is going to be very quick. I'll take you through the simple steps as to how to change the ownership and the group of that file. And just as usual, we always start by looking at the man page. And there you have it. You have some options you can pass in. You can do recursive operation. You can do this for an entire directory structure or just a single node. And as usual, there are lots to read, lots of different flags for different use cases. And in some cases, you might want to have a verbose output. So while you are iterating through the list and making all the changes, changing the ownership of each file, you might want to have an output just showing you the progress. In some cases, you don't want that. It may be a bit much for what you're doing. So in that cases, you would use the default. Now, and in some cases, when you come to these man pages, you go to the very bottom, you might see things like the history of the of this system, where it started. Utility appeared in version 1, AT&T Unix. So that's not that's very old system, and in some cases you might also see additional information like legacy description, compatibility. And believe it or not, this is where I learned some of the most some very cool tricks that are not widespread. If you take the time to read the man page, you will come across things that could improve your workflow. There have been cases historically where I would do a specific operation in several steps, copying and pasting, adding additional files and so forth. And by reading the man page, I found that, oh, all you need to do is figure out the correct option, and that will automatically do a specific task, and in some cases a great optimization. So most of the problems that you will have in the command line, I would bet that it's not exactly a new problem. In most cases, a little bit of knowledge and abstraction and indirection could solve the problem. So spend some time looking through the man pages and you'll find some gems that could improve your efficiency. Okay, that said, let's look at the file system here, and let's look at what we have in this directory. So we have three files, and as I explained to you earlier, you have the first column being the permission of the file, and then you have the user who owns that file, the owner of the file, and then you have the group that the file belongs to, staff. On the second iteration, you have a file, the basic file, that belongs to root, and the group that have access to that file is admin, and so forth. And everyone else across the system can read this file, but only root can write to this file, and anyone in the admin group can also read this file. Let's change this from root to my name. That would take the format of chown, and that would be followed by a colon. And I can also make myself a admin. I think I'm also admin, so this should work. And then I go basic file. I think that's all you need, because we're dealing with one file. If you're doing this for a directory, then we'll try to do it recursively with a -r that will recurse through all the items and convert them to the new ownership. Let's see. We might get an error because chown is one of those operations that doesn't like changing ownership of file without the proper privileges. So you might get an error saying this is not allowed without the right privileges, as I expect. So operation not permitted. This is simply saying that we need to force the system to do this operation by authentication. And there's an additional command that I have not mentioned yet, but this is what you do when you want to do something in a permissive way. So if we go here, we go back to that, we say sudo sudo. What this is going to do, this is going to prompt me for my credentials and just verify that I am allowed to do this. Changing file ownership can be a bit dangerous, in some cases malicious. If someone gets into your system and change all the ownership of the files in order to take over your system, that can be very bad. So let's have a look at that. So we go run chown password. If I know my password, that would be good. Good. That seems to have gone silently. Let's list what we have. You can see now all the files, including basic file, belongs to me, but the group remains admin. Now we can also change the group, just group. If you go back and say, oh, that was a mistake, maybe I just want to change the group, you could just do, if there's a group, you could call, let's see if you can force the word group as a group. So you'll be doing just the second of the colon that denotes the group, and that seems to have gone through. And you can see, so anyone from group and my name, but we know this group doesn't exist because we can create the group retrospectively and the system will pick it up. It doesn't they're disconnected. It's not really a problem to create new groups. It's pretty useful in some cases to organize. If you have a server where you want to have shared accounts, lots of accounts on a server, Unix or Linux server, having these specific groups and setting up the users in specific group will give you a kind of experience where you could tailor the experience for each group, and the tools and files and directories that they would have access to, you can control that using the Unix permission system and privileges. Great. I think that sums it up a bit. That gives you that should be a good introduction to how to use the chown, change ownership, and thank you for watching, and I catch you in the next one where we look at the additional tools.